Welcome back to our channel where we delve into historical mysteries and legends. Today, we're going to explore the fascinating life of one of history's most iconic figures, Queen Cleopatra. We'll be uncovering interesting facts about her life and evaluating the accuracy of the recent Netflix show based on her story. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world of Cleopatra. The docudrama Queen Cleopatra, which purports to be a historically accurate account of the life and reign of the ruler of the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt in the 1st century BC, will be released on Netflix on May 10th. The series, produced by Jada Pinkett Smith, the wife of American actor Will Smith, has already attracted much controversy for the decision to cast the black British actress Adele James in the title role. Cleopatra was not black. As well-documented history attests, she was the descendant of a Macedonian Greek general who was a contemporary of Alexander the Great. Her first language was Greek, and in contemporary busts and portraits she is depicted clearly as being white. The evidence for Cleopatra's true heritage is overwhelming and not, as Pinkett Smith has said in defense of the show, highly debated. The actress playing Cleopatra has offered this advice to the show's many critics: if you don't like the casting, don't watch the show. It is advice that and I suspect countless Egyptians, intend to take. There are many words that could be used to describe the falsehood at the heart of this series, and headlines in newspapers around the world, from the US to Egypt and Greece, have carried several of them, including historical revisionism, cultural appropriation, and blackwashing. The protests are not motivated by racism. As the Egyptian lawyer Mahmoud Al-Semari, who has launched a legal bid to have access to Netflix blocked in Egypt, has pointed out, this is outrage provoked by a form of cultural identity theft. Zahi Hawass said, "None of these statues, including the one we found, which was made of alabaster, gives any indication that Cleopatra was black." Al-Semari has accused Netflix of an attempt to promote the Afrocentric thinking, which includes slogans and writings aimed at distorting and erasing the Egyptian identity. Now that we talked about the docudrama, let's talk about the real life of Queen Cleopatra. She wasn't Egyptian. After the stuff about hiding in carpets, bathing in milk, and being bitten by snakes, more on some of that later, the most famous thing associated with Cleopatra, who was born around 69 BCE, is Egypt. But in fact, she was descended from Greeks and spoke Greek. Her dad was called Ptolemy, and his ancestor was one of Alexandria the Great's generals. Even her name is Greek. It translates as great like her father. She marries her brother. The first one was Cleopatra's little brother Ptolemy XIII. After Cleo's dad died, she was put in charge. But at the time women weren't allowed to rule without a male co-ruler, so the easiest solution appeared to be Cleo marrying her little brother and reigning Egypt together. Which, let's face it, is odd. She battled her brother. If any of you have younger siblings, then you know that occasionally quarrels erupt. Well, this is certainly what happened with Cleopatra and brother and husband Ptolemy, as when he turned 13 in 49 BCE he quite fancied ruling without his sister and wife. He conspired against her, so Cleo fled to Syria, raised an enemy, and soon Egypt had descended into civil war. Meanwhile, Rome was also engaged in a civil war as Julius Caesar battled his rival Pompey. Pompey, struggling to beat Caesar, fled to Egypt for help, but Ptolemy, trying to impress Caesar, had him swiftly killed. But this, in fact, enraged Caesar, who set off for Egypt himself. She was a great persuader. Caesar demanded an explanation from Ptolemy and Cleopatra, and ordered them both to appear before him. This was tricky for Cleo, as she was currently having a bit of a war with her brother and couldn't just pop into the palace. Instead, she sneaked in, wrapped in a duvet or bedroll, not a carpet, according to the historian Plutarch, and saw Caesar alone. Not only was Julius impressed by her ability to hide in bedding, but he also appreciated her various other attributes, and the two of them soon became a power couple. Ptolemy was so angry he reportedly threw his crown to the floor, and then ran away. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. She was brave. Ptolemy, the perfect embodiment of a stroppy Egyptian teenager, dashed off and raised an army, laying siege to the city of Alexandria, which Cleopatra and Caesar were in. He even pumped raw sewage into the drinking water to try and get those trapped inside the city to give up. But then Roman reinforcements arrived and Ptolemy was defeated at the Battle of the Nile, supposedly drowning when his golden armor was too heavy to swim in. She was a popular leader. Now Cleo was free to rule again, but she still needed a male co-ruler, so she, surprise, married another brother who was called, surprise surprise, Ptolemy. This one was Ptolemy XIV. But thanks to her alliance with Caesar and Rome, Cleopatra's position was more secure, and she cemented her popularity by speaking and dressing like an Egyptian while on official duties, while reverting to Greek in private. She also decided she was the living embodiment of the goddess Isis and dressed accordingly on occasion. She was ruthless. The alliance with Caesar was further cemented by Cleo having a child whom she called Caesarion, or Little Caesar, suggesting who the dad might be.
Unfortunately, this alliance hit a bit of a snag when Caesar was assassinated in 44 BCE.
Even more awkwardly, Cleo was in Rome visiting him at the time. She quickly dashed back to Egypt and soon realized that her son could now be her co-ruler, and so had poor little Ptolemy 14 poisoned.
She wasn't always right. With Caesar gone, Rome was being ruled by 3 men, including Mark Antony and Octavian.
Mark Antony was married to Octavian's sister, which makes the next bit even more awkward. Antony attempted to maintain Rome's alliance with Egypt by bombarding Cleo with letters and eventually turning up on her doorstep. Inevitably, the two of them also became a power couple, eventually having 3 children together. Cleo also funded Mark Antony's habit of trying and failing to invade other countries, but this alignment with Antony would prove to be her undoing. She was dangerous to have as a sister. It wasn't just brothers that Cleopatra had it in for. She also feared her sister Arsinoe was plotting against her and convinced Mark Antony to have her killed, even though she was hiding inside a temple. Romans were outraged that she was killed on sacred ground. Then Mark Antony successfully, for once, invaded Armenia and declared that one day his children would rule it. Again, Rome wasn't delighted that Antony was handing over chunks of the empire to his kids, and the Senate declared both him and Cleopatra to be enemies of Rome. She left a legacy. Octavian had decided he'd had enough and met with Antony's forces at the Battle of Actium in 33 BCE. Antony's army was defeated. He fled to Alexandria and, knowing capture was imminent, stabbed himself and died in Cleo's arms. Cleo then poisoned herself, so her rule of Egypt was over, but her legacy lived on. Her 3 children were taken to Rome and raised by Mark Antony's widow, one of her daughters. Cleopatra Selene later became a queen herself and so kept the family business going. That's all for today's video on the life of Queen Cleopatra. We hope you enjoyed learning about her fascinating story and discovering the truth behind the recent Netflix show. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more historical mysteries and legends. If you have any thoughts or comments, feel free to leave them down below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.